I just watched both good versions of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and my goodness, is it hard to pick one I liked more because they were both pretty darn awesome. And no, unfortunately, I did not watch them in order because the 78 remake was the first one I saw on my Tubi feed, so it was the one I watched first. Then right after it was finished, I was looking up movies similar to it, and the original popped up. And given that it was only 10 p.m., I booted up that one immediately. Who needs to go to bed at a decent hour? Now let's talk about these films. They both follow very similar plots beat for beat with a few differences here and there. In both films, the main characters are a man and a woman who have quite a lot of romantic tension, but in the remake, both are scientists and have an equal amount of focus, whereas in the original, the man is the only doctor and is much more prominently the main character. Both films follow the pair through a couple days where some people in the town start to become convinced their loved ones aren't who they say they are. At first, these people are brushed off as acting hysterical, but soon it becomes clear they were telling the truth, and the answer is the most exciting one: it's aliens! Both films keep the aliens' plans and methods for world conquest the same, with giant pods growing exact human replicas, with the distinct difference of being part of an emotionless hive mind. Like I said, the plot beats are pretty similar, with the main scientist guy and his kinda maybe sorta girlfriend figuring the aliens' plans out and spending the majority of the film trying to get the heck out of Dodge and warn the rest of the world while staying awake for days on end. Eventually, the woman falls asleep and gets replaced, and the scientist tries again to escape. And this is where the biggest change occurs. The original film is told in a flashback style, with the opening scene being an interrogation and the rest being the story he tells to the doctors, with the whole film leading back to that first scene. This narrative device is absent from the remake, which I think adds more tension around whether or not the main characters will make it out alive. And then the endings are completely different. Spoiler alert, the remake ends with the aliens winning and every character being assimilated, while the original has an open-ended conclusion which leaves the chance of humanity's survival still a possibility. It was with this ending that I figured out which one I liked more. Even though the chance appears to be small that humanity actually survives in the original, I still think the film was building up so much dread and despair that any hope it gives to the audience doesn't seem to add up with the rest of the film. There were also several scenes in the remake which seemed to take what the original did and improve on them using new technology. The pods are definitely a little more creepy, and the birth of the pod people is a lot more grotesque. I also think the remake did a lot more showing, while the original did more telling. In the original, there's not a ton of clues for the audience to figure out what's going on until the characters just sit down and explain it. But in the remake, the clues are all over the place, and they are completely visual. Once the big exposition scene happens, delivered by the perfect man, Mr. Leonard Nimoy, we've already got most of the puzzle put together along with the main characters. He just fills in a couple of the missing pieces. Overall, I think the remake just flowed a bit better and was a little more engaging for the audience. But, on the other hand, I only like the remake a little better. Even without those things, the original film created a tense and really engaging environment very similar to the noir films of the same era. And even though the ending isn't as grim as I think it should have been, it's still a lot more grim than what the book had. The book actually has a happy ending, with the aliens leaving voluntarily after getting annoyed by the humans trying to resist and realizing their lifespan in the human bodies isn't sustainable. Props to the filmmakers for taking the darker and much more satisfying route, unlike some other adaptations of amazing books. So overall, I did enjoy the remake more, but I also think it had a lot more to work with and still only ended up being a little better than its predecessor. For what it had to work with, I think the original did a great job in creating a horrifying scenario which kept the tension high the whole film, even without a lot of modern creature effects. So those are my right after viewing thoughts on both the Body Snatcher films. Have you seen either or both, and what are your thoughts? Do you agree with my opinion, or am I completely unqualified to make any sort of decisions for myself? Also, are there any other oldish horror sci-fi films like this that are worth checking out? If there are, let me know in the comments. Thank you to all my fellow freaks for watching, and I'll see you next time with something else. See y'all later.